Welcome to a world with limitless possibilities. A world where pain and suffering are matched only by the sounds of those who endure it. Welcome to your nightmare.
Welcome to your nightmare.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Nightmare. I would like to take this time to thank all the faithful listeners who have been listening to my show since day one, and everyone else who has listened to me since the earlier times. But I would also like to thank the new listeners for joining our show. I do hope everyone is enjoying the stories, the upgraded sound that we have put into this podcast here, and continues to listen as we continue to narrate the stories that you enjoy. For tonight's tale, I'm going to be narrating a story for you called The Soot-Born Saints. London, 1960. I never believed London had monsters, not real ones. The city had survived the Blitz, starvation, ration lines, and the quiet cruelty of men who smiled while they ruined you. Compared to that, fairy tales felt childish, something to keep children from wandering into the Thames. I was wrong. London didn't lose its monsters when it modernized. It fed them. And in 1960, they were starving. The first body appeared beneath Blackfriars Bridge, folded like a broken umbrella. The police said the river had done it, dragged him along the embankment, smashed him against stone. But rivers don't peel skin from bone with surgical precision. They don't stack vertebrae neatly beside a corpse like discarded rosary beads. I was a coroner's assistant then, 34, recently widowed, still smelled smoke when I closed my eyes. They called me in because the body had oddities. That was the word, oddities. The man's rib cage had been opened outward, cracked and bent like the doors of a cupboard. His lungs were gone, not torn, removed. The cavity was clean, glossy as though licked. Inside his chest cavity, carved into the sternum with something sharp and curved, was a symbol I recognized before I wanted to. A triskelion, interlocked spirals, ancient and pagan. London wasn't built on Christianity. It was built on buried things. More bodies followed. A woman in Limehouse with her jaw unhinged and filled with ash. A dock worker in Wapping found nailed to a warehouse wall. Alive when they found him, throat opened ear to ear. Blood pumping until his heart stuttered and gave up. Each corpse bore the same marks, same symbols, same removal of organs, and same scent. Burnt iron, wet fur, old smoke. I began to dream of hooves on cobblestone echoing through fog. The police dismissed me when I suggested patterns older than crime statistics. Superstition embarrassed them. England was rebuilding. We were meant to be modern now. But the symbols kept repeating. They weren't modern. They were offerings. The breakthrough came from a homeless woman near Spitalfields. Her eyes filmed white with cataracts, but her voice sharp as glass. She grabbed my coat and whispered,
They're waking up. The saints beneath the soot.
I asked her what saints. She smiled with blackened gums.
The ones we lied about.
I began digging. Church archives, private collections, sealed municipal records from before the Great Fire. London folklore wasn't whimsical. It was instructional. Warnings dressed as bedtime stories. Beneath the city lived creatures older than empires. Beings bound to places, bridges, markets, tunnels, burial pits. We didn't banish them. We bargained. Blood for silence, names for protection, bones for time. The Industrial Revolution didn't kill them, it starved them. And now, in the hollow years after war, they were feeding again. The first creature had a name scraped out of records. The Kyleech of Blackfriars. A hag thing, half woman, half ram, with stone-cracked horns and a mouth full of human teeth stolen from the drowned. She lived beneath bridges, where the river whispered confessions. She took lungs because breath was sacred to her. I found her lair by following the smell. Rot, river slime, old incense. Under the bridge, behind a false wall of brick, was a chamber lined with rib bones, wired together like cathedral arches. Lungs hung from hooks, swollen and twitching, some still drawing shallow, desperate breaths. I gagged, vomited until my throat bled. She was there when I stood up. Her body was wrong, knees bent backward, skin hanging in wet folds, face stretched too long. When she smiled, water poured from her mouth. "You're late," she said. "They always are." She lunged. I don't remember the fight clearly. I remember her hands inside my chest, fingers sliding between ribs, nails scraping my heart. I remember biting into her throat and tasting River's rot. I remember smashing her skull with a brick until her horns cracked and her body sagged like a collapsed bridge. When she died, the lungs screamed. Every one of them. Her death didn't stop the killings. It accelerated them. Others rose. The red cap of Whitechapel, a child-sized thing with iron boots and a hat soaked in fresh blood, tearing out intestines and laughing while victims bled into gutters. The Barghest of King's Cross, a massive dog thing with human eyes, jaws unhinging to swallow men whole, then vomiting bones into the rail tunnels. Each creature tied to a place, each place neglected, each feeding in its own grotesque ritual. London wasn't haunted, it was hungry. I learned the truth too late. These creatures weren't invaders, they were infrastructure. They'd once been guardians, brutal, yes, but necessary. They kept worse things asleep, things without names. Killing them broke the silence, and something beneath the city noticed. It came up through the underground. Passengers on the Northern Line described screaming, then silence. Trains arriving empty, walls smeared with meat. The lights flickered for days. They called it the Hollow King, a god shaped like a man, skin stretched over a frame too tall, too thin, face split vertically so its mouth opened like a wound. Inside were other mouths, whispering. It fed on memory. It didn't just kill you, it unmade you. People forgot the dead existed, photos blurred, names vanished from records. Even grief evaporated, leaving behind a numb, festering absence. I felt it feeding when my wife's face finally slipped from my mind. That was when I understood. This wasn't random slaughter. This was succession. The old monsters were being culled, so something far worse could rule unopposed. And I had helped. The final ritual took place beneath St. Paul's Cathedral, a chamber older than Christianity, stones slick with centuries of blood. The remaining creatures gathered there, not in defiance, but fear. They were dying. So were we. I stood in the circle, knife in hand, knowing what had to be done. The bargains had always required a witness, someone to remember, someone to carry the story forward in flesh. The Hollow King emerged from the darkness, its presence crushing, its voice splitting into 1,000 overlapping whispers. Every prayer ever spoken in London, begging for mercy that never came. I cut my chest open, wide, deep. I offered myself, not as a sacrifice, as an anchor. I bound it again, not with symbols, not with blood alone, but with memory, with guilt. with every horror London had ever buried and pretended not to see. The pain was indescribable. My organs boiled, my bones screamed. I felt centuries crush into me. But it worked. The Hollow King sank back into the dark. The city breathed. That was 60 years ago. I shouldn't still be alive, but London remembers through me now. I walk its streets at night, ribs aching, heart stitched with old magic, listening for hunger in the fog. Because monsters never disappear, they just wait. And if I ever die, London will bleed again. That is all for tonight's episode, and I do hope you all enjoyed it. If anyone has any story suggestions or any comments they would like to throw my way, please feel free to do so at nightmarepod@gmail.com. And until next time, sleep well.